Loading. Welcome to Access the Animus.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new video here on Access the Animus. Today was a huge day for Assassin's Creed as we got so many announcements about new and upcoming content for Valhalla and quite shockingly for Odyssey as well. Thus, in this video we're going to delve into the two major announcements of the day, that is the huge crossover between Valhalla and Odyssey that is going to release tomorrow and belongs to a new series called Assassin's Creed Crossover Stories, and the big CGI trailer dedicated to the upcoming third expansions for Valhalla, now officially named Dawn of Ragnarok. In the video we're going to delve into the details of the new crossover involving new quests and new maps both in Valhalla and in Odyssey, and then we're going to discuss all the details that we know and can surmise from the upcoming mythological DLC for Valhalla, along with a look at all the new information coming from the recent patch notes. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it, subscribing to our channel and turning the notifications on so you won't miss any of our future updates. And with that out of the way, let's dive into the major news released today for Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey. And we start with all the news about the then rumored and now finally confirmed crossover between Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla, where Eivor is going to meet Cassandra. Ubisoft has branded this crossover under a new umbrella name called Assassin's Creed Crossover Stories, which is likely going to be used in any potential future crossover within the Assassin's Creed brand. This specific crossover, which is going to be free for all the owners of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla, will be made available tomorrow, December the 14th, by downloading respectively an update for Valhalla and an update for Odyssey, and the reason why you have to download patches for both games is that this crossover will provide new quests and new maps not only in Valhalla, but also in Odyssey. Yes, you heard it right, there's going to be new story content, new activities, new rewards, and new territories to explore in both games. So in case you're interested in this crossover and the full scope of it, you'd better download both games if you haven't already and update them tomorrow. And get ready to use a lot of your bandwidth, as it might take you some time, considering that the update on Valhalla's side will have a size that is comparable to the size of the game itself. Now let's get more into the juicy stuff. The content will be available within Valhalla after unlocking Settlement Level 4, so not as early as most of the post-launch content for the game, while within Odyssey it will be available pretty much after the first act of the game, after Cassandra leaves the island of Kefalonia, of course with a spoiler warning for the new players. Story-wise, we're going to have two new quest sets, one for Odyssey and one for Valhalla, respectively named Those Who Are Treasured and A Fated Encounter. In the Odyssey one, we're going to be back playing as Cassandra, or Alexios, and it is going to be set after all the events from Odyssey, with our main character hunting for a quote-unquote mythical treasure, while the Valhalla quest will seemingly involve Valka, who in the trailer mentions people having nightmares and asks the gods for clarity, and where of course we're going to play as Eivor, who at some point is going to meet Cassandra, and at least initially not on easy terms as we can see from this fight scene. And for the hardcore fans, it seems like Cassandra during the Viking Age will be wearing a hidden blade, hinting at some kind of interaction with the Hidden Ones, and also it looks like these stories will involve some Isu technology, possibly some pieces of Eden, and likely even more than that. As mentioned earlier, we're going to have two new maps where these new quests are going to take place. The one in ancient Greece for Cassandra and Alexios' story will be the island of Corfu, and it seems like the island will not only be the location for the main quest, but also for some additional activities in case players would like to spend more time in this new map. As for what concerns the Valhalla part of this crossover, there will also be a new island map, and that is going to be the Isle of Skye located in Scotland. In this case too, there will be more side activities than just the main quest involving Eivor and Cassandra, as it's been the case for pretty much every major post-launch content for the game. So yeah, Eivor and Cassandra will indeed meet, and yes, the Valhalla part seems to involve only Cassandra and not Alexios, which will surely be a discussion topic these days, and we also got to see this pretty cool Keyart showing Cassandra facing Eivor with a half Greek, half Viking background, and with both of them crossing their hidden blade. In here we can even see more clearly that Cassandra's blade is placed under her left wrist, as it is more of a classic used by the Hidden Ones and later the Assassins. So which quest should be played first, I hear you ask? The easy answer would be the Odyssey one. Sure, you can play either, and if you prefer Valhalla as a game you can do that, but based on the continuity, the events in Assassin's Creed Odyssey necessarily predate those of Valhalla, so unless there's anything specific happening that scrambles the continuity, the events happening to Cassandra in ancient Greece should come first, and maybe they will also lay the ground for the motivations that she will have in the Valhalla quest. Another question raised by this crossover story's new brand name is surely how this is going to be used or reused in the future, and the answer is, I don't know. You'd expect these crossovers to be between characters that actually meet within the lore, but also that these crossovers happen in-game like this one. So while I'd really love to see a crossover between Arno, Shay, and Connor, or between Ezio and Aguilar, their games are really dated and I really don't see devs going back to work on them, while instead Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla seem to be more viable. So maybe in the future we might see Cassandra meeting Bayek or Aya and witness how she got her hidden blade. Otherwise, it is likely that this name is going to be used either in some upcoming transmedia releases or within the Assassin's Creed Infinity project, which is likely to feature multiple stories involving multiple assassin characters, so that would be the perfect ground to build crossovers on. What do you guys think? What would be your favorite Assassin's Creed crossover? Do let us know in the comments below. Moving on, today we also got a big CGI trailer for the upcoming third expansion for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which has now been officially announced as Dawn of Ragnarok and is set to be released on March the 10th, 2022 for a price of €40 or dollars. As it had been pretty much hinted at in the past and as it was also leaked over the weekend, this is going to be a mainly mythological expansion set within the Norse mythology, where Eivor will be witnessing a new chunk of Odin's story, and being it a mythological expansion, well, you should get ready to see all kind of magical content with fantasy powers and abilities, a lot of visuals and characters connected to the Norse mythology, a lot of magical rewards for sure. But at the same time, this should also bring some new ISO-related narrative, so while this doesn't really seem to be aimed at the long-time fans who, like me on average, really dislike the content that isn't grounded or placed within the narrative framework of the franchise, there might still be a lot to analyze in terms of underlying narrative. As for what concerns the story, our main character will be Odin or Havi, and he will be engulfed in the so-called War of the North, which is affecting the 9 realms of the Norse mythology and is caused by the realms of the Frost and Flames. More specifically, Odin's story will be set in the realm of dwarves and dark elves called Svartalfheim, which is now falling apart because of the war, and within this turmoil, Odin is set on finding his son Baldur, who has actually been kidnapped by the immortal fire giant Surtur, the leader of the invading faction, whom we can see in the Keyart of the DLC. From one of the screenshots we also know that a character named Frigg will make an appearance, and Frigg, or Frigga in the Norse mythology, is actually Odin's celestial spouse and the mother of Baldur, so it's also likely that we're going to see some family drama within the DLC. Timeline-wise, as Odin is having an eye patch here, it does look like we should consider this to take place after the events that saw Odin sacrifice his eye, of course, but before the events of Ragnarok that we saw both in their original ISO version and in their mythological one. And of course, this is called Dawn of Ragnarok. This is seemingly going to happen right before the events that saw Odin and his Isu friends using the 7 method to be reborn thousands of years later. In fact, the descriptions of the DLC do mention a few times that this is happening in the face of the god's doom, as the world ends, and so on. So it does look like it's going to be a direct sequel to the Jotunheim arc and a direct prequel to the Ragnarok scene. And who knows, maybe thanks to some narrative trick we're also going to see what happened during and after the Ragnarok events. So yeah, a lot to unpack here, so much so that we might need to have an analysis or speculation video about it as for what concerns the actual Isu storyline involved here. Gameplay-wise, the descriptions of the DLC mention that Odin will be able to use a number of different divine powers involving ice and fire, and not only that, which is something that had already been leaked in the past. These powers should, again according to the rumors, be made available through the use of a specific bracer, and in this screenshot, aptly called Receiving Bracer, we can actually see when, how do you call her? Female Odin? Well, whatever, you can see a dwarf giving her the bracer while she's wearing a new armor, a new shield, and even a new hairstyle. One of these powers that has already been mentioned is the Muspel Glamour, that turns Odin into a, let's call him lava being, or directly a Muspel, which seems like it will allow him to move undetected between guards of the same Muspel realm and to assassinate them as shown in this screenshot. In addition, there have been rumors of a new weapon type called the Atgeir, which is basically a new type of polearm used in the Viking Age, and it's so very likely that it's the weapon used in this screenshot, where it looks like Odin, of course with a new kind of outfit and item set, is also using some kind of ice power at the base of the weapon to attack his enemy as some lava is flowing next to them. The DLC also comes with a pre-order or pre-purchase package, the so-called Twilight Pack, which adds an equipment set, an axe weapon, a raven skin, and a new mount that should be a huge lynx, and all of these are of course oriented to the theme of ice and fire, with the catch that it looks like pre-ordering the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC will apparently make the Twilight Pack available in Valhalla's main game right now, and not when the DLC releases on March the 10th, so in case you'd like to see how Eivor or Odin look with an eye patch, you know what you can do. And last but not least, cause yes, there's more, the new update 1.4.1 for Valhalla will also bring even more content to the game, the most relevant of which, at least in my opinion, will be the fixes and additions to the much criticized stealth system, along with some new settings for what concerns combat and exploration that we already detailed in one of our previous videos that you can see on screen right now, so definitely check that out if you haven't seen it already. The patch will also add support for the Yule Festival once again, which is going to be made available on December the 16th, which also pretty much confirms that this will start the cycle of the festivals again and that we shouldn't see new festival in the coming year either. We're going to have to wait and see if the rewards here are going to be the same from the Yule Festival of last year or some different ones, but other than that, it looks like it's going to be the same festival that we saw back at the end of 2020. And lastly, if re-downloading Odyssey for those of you who might have erased it wasn't enough, as we mentioned earlier and in our previous videos as well, update 1.4.1 will be huge itself, pretty much the size of the entire game, as part of an already announced data restructuring which eventually will make it so that the game has a smaller size on your hard drive. So you know, you'd better prepare your bandwidth as you might need to download the games if you don't have them, and then tomorrow download the patches once they are available. It's going to be a long day and a long week, that's for sure. And that was it for today's video, and today's information drop was pretty huge. What are your opinions about this new crossover content involving Eivor and Cassandra and Valhalla and Odyssey? Are you hyped or cautious about it? And what about Dawn of Ragnarok? Now that you've seen the trailer, are you interested in playing it and seeing how this part of Odin's story will play out? Or is this a kind of content and setting that you'd prefer to avoid? Let us know in the comments below. Also, keep an eye out on our channel tomorrow as we're going to try and stream both quests of the crossover and of course share our opinion about them. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in our next video.